Welcome to another episode of the Studio Sessions. I'm your host, Terina Nicole, designer of Gypsy Leather Goods, a line of handbags and small leather accessories, fashion instructor, and owner of the Fashion Design Center of South Jersey. Today we're going to talk to a designer who has just as many balls in the air as I do. But did you know that even Leonardo da Vinci was an architect, engineer, sculptor, painter, scientist? He did all the things. Being a full-time artist or designer with no other stream of income is a myth for most of us. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way. Let's head to Philly and meet fashion designer / fashion design professor, Danielle D.C. Claassen. Hey DC.
Hey Terina, welcome to my studio.
Hi DC. I am well. Thank you so much for having me here in your home-based studio. So this is amazing to me. Like your home, the energy here, guys. I wish you could smell how good it is. Like the vibe is just heavenly. Like your energy has always been heavenly. So I know DC because we both are professors at Drexel University in the fashion design department.
Go Dragons!
I'm an adjunct, so I only teach one class a year. It's a spring semester class, so I'm there from April to June every year teaching accessory design. But she is a full-time professor at Drexel. Yes, so of course I want to talk about that because just someone who studied fashion design in college, I've never had a black professor, you know, and representation matters, you know what I mean? Yes, so I would love, and just, you know, just really quickly, just to say that as a new professor coming to Drexel last year, teaching my first semester, how warm and inviting you were, you know, and so I'm just very grateful for that, you know. Whenever you start a new experience, you just don't know what it's going to be like, you know, and everyone there was nice to me, you know, so shout out to Drexel because you guys hire great people. But, you know, I just want to start at the beginning because not only are you a professor, but you also are a designer with your own line called Neutral States.
Neutral States clothing.
Yes. Which are absolutely gorgeous clothing. And I just love the name of your line because it just sounds so green and eco-friendly, and I know that that's important to you as really it is with me. Yes. So let's start from the beginning. So are you from Philadelphia? Were you born and raised here?
I was not. I'm actually a military brat.
Military brat, okay.
So my parents met in the military.
Okay.
And we moved around quite often. So yes, I was born in New Jersey though.
Really? Yeah. Go Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey. But 6 months later we moved to Turkey.
Turkey.
And then we moved to Holland.
Wow.
And then we moved to California.
Okay. Where did you spend most of your childhood? Like where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in England.
In England?
But I was only there for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. We had to move my last year to Florida.
So you went from California to England? Okay. And then from England to Florida. Got it. And that's where you spent your early adulthood?
No, I only stayed there for a year.
Okay.
And then I went to Ohio. For Oberlin College.
Okay, that's when you went to college. Got it. Now, did you study fashion design in college?
I didn't. I actually studied literature.
Okay.
English.
Okay. So, before you went to college, while you were in high school, junior high school, did you discover that you were creative at that point, or was it something that happened later in life?
I did discover that I wanted to be a poet.
Okay.
Actually. And I wrote poetry, and I was always into art. going to art museums. I dragged my parents there.
I love it.
I was a voracious reader. I just loved the medium of words at the time, and I didn't really discover my love for fashion, fabrics, textiles until I was in college, actually.
Got it. So you were in college studying literary, and did you take like an elective in fashion design? Is that how it happened?
I took an elective in knitting.
In knitting, okay.
So,
which you're clearly very talented in. Yes.
So actually at Oberlin we have experimental college.
Okay.
They call it EXCO. So that's when the students teach students, and you have to take at least 2 credits to graduate. Okay. So I took knitting, and that was 1 credit, and also Nia dancing, which is like very hippie wave dancing. Okay. It's very crunchy at Oberlin. Gotcha. But yeah, and there's...
So it was a student teaching you knitting? 3
juniors. They all taught us. There's a big group, 40 of us, and yeah, they taught us how to knit. Wow.
And at that point, did you change your major, or did you continue with your degree and get a degree in
English? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bachelor of Arts.
Gotcha.
But I became obsessed.
Okay, with knitting.
Obsessed with knitting.
Got it.
And I spent like 7 years knitting. I worked at a yarn store. I worked at a yarn distributorship. Very immersed in the knitting world. But unfortunately, it's not the most embracing of Black people. I gotta say, you know, there's like very limited amounts of Black knitters.
Got it.
And not only that, but I mean, it's changing, but there was also not very many male knitters, you know? Yeah. So there was like a little bit of...
Yeah, so inclusivity problem there.
Yeah. I think it's probably like totally different right now, but at that time...
It's interesting because I remember when I was in my early 20s trying to find local organizations to get involved in when it came to fashion design. What I could really only find was like sewing circles, and they would all be old white ladies, and they would just be looking at me like, why are you here? And I'm just like,
I want to sew.
I just want to do what I'm doing, and I want to do it with a community, you know? And so, yeah, finding like Black sewing circles didn't exist. The best I found was when I moved to South Jersey, because at that time I was in North Jersey, and it was old white ladies just made me feel like I didn't belong. And then when I moved to South Jersey, I found a like young, cool, hip type of sewing circle happening in Philly. But same thing, it was, even though it was young and it was cool, they were all white. I would be the only Black girl in there, you know what I mean? And so I know, I can imagine that is even worse when it comes to knitting. Yeah. So at what point though, because knitting and fashion design still are different, quite, you know what I mean? So what point did you study fashion design?
So I had been knitting for like 7 years. So that's like from 21 to 28. And then I was like, I could literally do this my whole life.
You loved it
like
that
designing,
much. Yes,
you know, designing clothing. Because, you know, once you hit a certain point in all the techniques of knitting, you're like, okay, I'm just going to make my own stuff. Right? And then I was like, but I want to make all kinds of stuff. I want to do like woven shirts, and I want to get more into wovens, right? It just like was like, it was a gateway.
Gotcha.
Gateway
Knitting was a gateway drug to fashion design.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, okay, so I'm going to go to grad school for fashion design. Okay. And luckily for me, it was a fluke, but every single person in my grad program was of color. Oh. Except for 1 person.
Wow. Now, where did you go to grad school?
I went to grad school at Drexel.
You did? Okay. So you were in Ohio?
I was in Ohio, and then I moved to New York for a year. Okay. I lived with my grandmother, which was really special.
New York City? You were in the city?
New York City, yeah.
And you didn't decide to go to like FIT or Pratt or...
No.
No, okay.
You know, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I did work at a clothing store though, ironically. But I was just kind of like, after school, especially undergrad, you're like, you know, you live in this bubble. And then you get out of the bubble and it bursts, and you're like, oh no,
this is real life.
Stand up for myself.
Yeah, I gotta stand for myself. I gotta pay these bills.
I gotta pay all these bills. I have so much student loan debt, you know. Yeah. So I was like, what am I gonna do? and then of course at that time, the degree I had wasn't as valuable as like I was told.
I'm assuming you didn't want to go into journalism and things like that.
I didn't.
You wanted to do like creative writing.
I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew that I wanted to get paid.
Okay.
Right. So, but I wasn't getting paid. So I didn't get paid very well for a long time. A long time.
So you said, okay, I'll go to grad school, and you chose Drexel. Why? You wanted to stay in close proximity to New York City,
or after New York, after 1 year, I moved here.
You moved to Philly.
Yeah,
okay.
And I was here for a few years, and then I decided to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I fell in love with Philly. I still have not left.
Yes. Can I tell you that I live in South Jersey because of my love for Philadelphia?
Really?
Yeah, no. I grew up in North Jersey and went to college in New York City, but first I came to Philly because I grew up in North, and my mom was just like, you know, you're not going to New York City in 1994. You know, like it was just off the chain. And so, because I say this all the time, because where we lived in New Jersey, we got New York news, but we didn't get Philly news. So she just thought, okay, if you're going to apply to an art school, go to Philly because you can still come home, you know, still fairly close, and Philly must be safer than New York.
Must be. No,
but it was my first time living in a city outside of Newark and outside of going in and out of New York City all the time, because I grew up always going to New York City. And coming to Philly, it was just a different vibe. I had never experienced anything like Philadelphia. And so I wound up buying a house in South Jersey, and I'm in South Jersey now because of its proximity to Philly. I love Philly.
Go.
Very dangerous city though, but otherwise.
It used to be called Philadelphia.
Yes, Philadelphia for a reason.
I mean, you know, you mess around, find out.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, but you love it here, clearly. You know, started a family here.
Started a family. I mean, I've always felt personally safe in Philly, but maybe I just give out the vibe.
Yeah. I love that vibe, yes. Don't mess with D.C. So, all right, so you went to Drexel for grad school, and you studied apparel design. Okay. And what was next?
And then I worked for a lot of independent designers in Philly.
I think that's so great. That's another reason why I love Philadelphia, Newark, Hoboken, New York City. You're going to find a plethora of independent designers, and they need help.
And you learn so much.
You learn from the ground floor. Yeah.
You learn all kinds of things because you're doing everything.
Yeah.
You know, and so are they.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I went straight to corporate because I was in New York, you know what I mean? So all the big brands are in New York, and so I went to corporate designing for different brands. It wasn't until I lost my job because of the not the pandemic, but the recession of 2008 that I started discovering independent designers that I could freelance for, or work as an assistant for, and do different things. And I'm like, I like this world more than I like it much better than the corporate world.
Me too.
Yeah.
I definitely dabbled in the corporate world for literally a month.
Okay.
And I was commuting from here to New York. And
wow.
I worked for Casper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Casper soap.
As a sweater tech designer.
Okay.
Yeah. And I liked the work, but it was a just kind of toxic environment though. It just wasn't for me. I just couldn't hack. I was crying in the bathroom.
Yes, no. So one of my jobs, I was the accessory and costume designer for the children's place. And at the time I had just given birth. And so my breasts were very full of milk, and they did not care about giving, women who were lactating a space to pump their breasts. And so I'm in the stalls in the bathroom pumping my breasts. And of course, where am I going to put the milk but in the refrigerator? You know what I mean? And people were disgusted by me.
What?
Yeah, they made me feel like trash. it was just very toxic and very mean.
It's so unreasonable.
Yeah. So thankfully, there are more women in power in corporate America these days, and so a lot of those type of situations are being changed. I remember last year or during the pandemic just reading a lot about there was some type of initiative to make sure all workplaces had like a lactation space. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
I was lactating. It was actually right after grad school. I was working at a upholstery factory. Well, it wasn't a factory. It was a distributorship. But yeah, they had a whole like lounge area before well, not specifically for lactating, but it's a great place to do it. Okay. It was dark, it was quiet.
Nice.
But I did get a lot of like looks and like comments, and I was like, they're like, what are you doing? You're pumping milk? And I'm like, yeah, I have a baby.
I have a whole baby. And my body does this. This is what nature gave us these for. So yeah,
but there was women saying that.
No,
like,
yeah,
really?
The women were meaner than the men. Men were just like kind of like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. But women were just like, that's disgusting. You should stay home. Like, what?
No.
If I stay home, how will I feed this child? The corporate world is not the friendliest place, and there's still some trauma that I'm just like,
Me too. I mean, I feel like if you have the temperament and you have the drive, it can be great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's for a certain type of person.
I think so.
And I think that is also very educational. You know what I mean?
I learned a lot.
I learned
a lot too.
I learned a lot. So much you don't learn in school.
There's so much you don't learn in school. There's so much you don't learn in school. If you can intern while you're in school, and like directly after school, before school, anytime.
Yes.
Anytime, because you learn so much.
Experience out in the field.
Yeah.
So one thing about Drexel is I know that they have a program where the students go abroad. Did you go abroad during your time?
I didn't go abroad during my time. I didn't. But I have been abroad.
Yeah, you've lived going abroad, so it's not a big deal for you. But I was just assuming, like during that time, they got to work, as an intern while they were.
I did intern in New York City.
Okay.
At Say Cashmere.
Okay.
It's a high-end cashmere company.
Very nice.
They make beautiful sweaters.
So you were commuting as an intern. And that's another thing. I feel like not only are we living in a time where social media and people are just like, work for free, but not only are they not willing to work for free, they won't work for free and get on a train and travel 2 hours to work for free either. And my thing is, you have to get your foot through the door. There's, especially in a career that a lot of people want. A lot of people want to be a fashion designer. It's very competitive. And so they're not just going to pick you for no random reason. You have to show you have that drive and initiative. With me, I had so much work experience, when it was time in my degree program to intern, that I didn't have to intern. They were able to just say, oh, you have like years of work experience, you know what I mean? So just that internship just pushes you along so much faster.
It does. And I mean, and also just the experience you get from the whole process.
And the relationships you build.
Yeah.
You know? So, all right, you interned. At what point did you become a professor?
So I didn't become a professor until like 5 years after I graduated.
Okay, all right. So you were working in the industry. Okay, you were working in the industry. Now, did you start Neutral States before becoming a professor or after?
I did. I started it in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. I really actually started it because I felt like I was just working in so many different places, but I didn't feel like I really belonged, right? So I was like, I'm gonna make my own thing. I always belong to myself, so
nice.
I'm gonna make my own thing.
Correct. We always belong to ourselves, and we can create the environment, the work environment that we want to experience.
And that's what I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about Neutral States. Like, what do you design?
Neutral States is really about balancing knits and wovens together in one look, or like one outfit. now working on some sweaters that I'm doing. It's going to be very colorful. But I would love to have like a little element of like some woven there, so maybe like a woven pocket on top of that sweater. So yeah, that's what I'm
So wovens, just to give like a quick education, knits are generally stretchy and they're made by looping fabrics together. So it could be something like crochet, but it can also be something like t-shirt fabric, or sweatshirts. Those are all stretchy and they're made by a knit machine if they're not hand knitted like a beautiful sweater or vest like this. But wovens are basically your jeans, your shirts. There's no stretch here, and it's made in a different process. So
it's made on a loom.
It's made on a loom.
It's woven.
It's woven on a loom. Correct. You know, and so I love, most companies are either knit companies or woven, but I love that you bring them together. Yeah, and the idea of actually not just having separate set, there's some knits here, some wovens here, but to combine them on one garment, like you were saying, like a woven pocket on a knit sweater. You know what I mean? That's very unusual.
Or like little cuffs. But the thing is, what I've found, and the reason why most people don't do it, is because the behavior of wovens and knits are so different.
You have to actually wash them differently, and the way that you dry them are different. You know what I mean? So it is hard to combine them.
You have to think about fiber content. Like if you want it to be washable, the woven and the knit have to both be washable, right? Cotton or linen, like the same kind of fabrication. Or you have to really consider like how much of a stretch is your knit gonna have, like together with your woven, because you know it's really comes down to the finishing, because the finishing can be really difficult with those two. So it's a challenge, but I love a challenge.
Yes, see, it's that education that comes into play. So what exactly do you teach at Drexel?
Oh my goodness, I teach a lot of classes. I teach construction skills, which is I teach sewing. Okay. I teach pattern making 1, which is flat pattern making.
No draping.
No draping. I teach pattern 2, which is draping. Okay. And then I teach materials exploration. So we manipulate fabrics. We make our own fabrics. Wow. Yeah, it's really fun. And then I also teach FD1, Fashion Design 1. So that's really the introduction into
the industry, the fashion world.
Like design.
Okay.
Yeah, fashion design. Like
so that's illustration,
actual draping, pattern making, construction, like all of
bringing it all into one class.
To one class. Yeah, it's like you learn all this foundational stuff, now design.
Now go design. Got it.
And then I also teach FD2, which is
you teach all the things then. Like what's left?
I don't teach any of the like upperclassmen. So all of those classes are like
foundational
freshman and sophomore class.
Gotcha.
First year, second year.
And it's funny because I teach the opposite end. Yeah, well, at Drexel, the accessory design students, they're all seniors. They're seniors or they're grad students. Yeah, so I get them right as they are entering the workforce. Yeah, the very end. So that's exciting. So I would love to know more about neutral states and your inspiration behind it. So are you designing for men or women?
I predominantly design for women, but I would love to design for men. So I feel like I need to start doing that, because if there is a market for it.
What I found as a handbag designer, of course I was just thinking women, but not only are men just like, listen, we don't have a lot of options. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a lot of options, and not only that, men are willing to pay much more for a bag, you know, because women are just like, I could just go to Target, you know what I mean? While men are like, no, I want this custom bag, I want my initials on it, it has to hold my water bottle and my phone here, my wallet there, my camera here. They know all these compartments they need.
I love the specificity.
They're very specific. They know what colors look great on them. They know how sturdy it needs to be, and they're willing to pay $1,000 for that thing.
Really?
Yeah, men are very specific and they're willing to pay more, while women are just like, give me something to wear tonight with my shoes, and I don't need it to be more than $50. You know.
But the men, they'll wear that their whole lives, right?
Yeah.
They'll use it their whole.
They'll use it their whole lives. It's not a throwaway piece for them. Yeah, they really cherish it. Yeah, so
that's how it should be.
Yeah, and that's how we all should be. Yeah.
That's how it all should be. It used to be like that.
It did.
Long ago.
Yeah. And I think that as people are becoming more and more educated on the problems with fast fashion and the environmental concerns, I think people are becoming more educated and more like, why do I need 400 pairs of jeans in the first place?
You don't
actually. Yeah, I feel like people are becoming like, you know what, I'm going to hold on to my favorite things and get rid of the excess and make that work, and just, you know, purchase things that really make my heart sing. You know what I mean?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
And fun fact with knitting and knits, you're using like a specific amount of yarn. There's like very little like excess to throw. Right? So that's why I love knitting too. It's very sustainable in and of itself, like always.
Yeah.
Right? If you calculate it correctly.
Yeah.
But also with neutral states, I like really hate throwing away fabric, so I'll just use it anyway. I'll make fringe.
Yeah.
I'll make new yarn from it.
I love that.
I'll just use it somehow.
I didn't think about that when it comes to knit, because it's a fabric that you're creating.
You're creating
while you're making the garment, you're making the fabric.
Exactly.
So you only use what you need. That's amazing. So what type of customer would love neutral states? Like, what do you find is your demographic?
I find, so the price point is a little high.
Well worth it.
Well worth it, but usually it's women in between like 30 to 70.
That's what I'm finding. Grown women, you know, they have a little disposable income, and they want things that matter to them.
Right.
They're not looking for like throwaway things. Yeah, special things. Yeah, that's amazing. Where can people find neutral states?
Neutral States is online, and I also have a few pieces. I have scarves right now, but I'm working on another line for fall at Logo Now Flagship.
Oh.
It's on 6th and Bainbridge.
Very nice. Yeah. So when you say online, though, is it neutralstates.com? Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, there's going to be some new stuff up there. It's going to be fly.
I believe it. I just love your aesthetic. I love your colors. They're like very muted, you know, but also not boring. Like muted, but like warm. You know what I mean? Like your favorite stuff, you know?
I like coziness, but I am I'm going to be flirting with a lot of color this next
collection.
Yeah, it's gonna be on the brighter side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for fall, winter 23.
Yep. Working on it now, doing all my swatching, and I have to find the yarn. And actually, I'm going to the costume collection to do some research on sweaters from the 80s and 90s.
Oh, love it. So that's going to be the inspiration for the collection?
That's the inspiration.
That's fun. Oh, that's a very colorful time. A lot of like
neon.
Yeah. And primary colors.
And there was also like there was sweaters that were very like jewel tone too.
Gorgeous. Right? Yeah. So one last thing I am so curious about is the management of motherhood, because she has 2 toddlers, 2 very young children, 4 and 5. I have a 4-year-old who will be 5 in a couple of weeks, and he cannot stop talking about his birthday.
So exciting.
Oh my God. So motherhood, full-time job as a professor, and running your own business.
Okay, yeah.
Time management. What do you do? How do you manage it? How do you make it happen?
Oh, I have alarms.
Yes.
I have my calendar.
My Google Calendar runs my life. It's my best friend. Yes. I just do what it tells me to do. Yeah. If it tells me I'm supposed to be working in my studio right now, I'm going to work in my studio.
That's exactly what I do.
I just do what it tells me to do.
Yeah. And also, I just like have a lot of faith in the universe.
Yes.
Timing. So I just like pretty much go with the flow.
I like that. What's your sign?
I'm a Libra.
Okay.
So I am very into balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So
Scale.
sometimes I feel like I'm just a clown like spinning plates. Like while like doing acrobatics.
Yeah, sometimes I feel that way. I mean, I would say 50% of the time.
50% of the time. Maybe 65.
Yes. And some days that's the whole day.
That is the whole day.
Yeah. But then other times I just feel so grateful.
I'm very happy.
I feel a lot of gratitude because we get to do what we love. And I feel kind of sad because I feel like there is a generation that kind of feels like, okay, if your Instagram doesn't have 100K followers or these like random unimportant specifications, right? That for what we know, people who are actually in the industry, most of my really popping friends in the industry, some of them not even on Instagram. You know what I mean? They're too busy working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just feel like there are things that Instagram doesn't show people. Yeah, we all put our little highlights on Instagram, you know, cool things that we're doing. But the fact that we can have like this balance where we have this intentional time with our children, you know what I mean? This loving experience with our children or our spouse or our loved ones. And we go to a job where we're pouring into the next generation of designers, helping them get to where they need to be, even encouraging them to go much further than we even went, you know what I mean? And then we still find time to go and pour into our dreams, you know what I mean? And for me, I've been running Gypsy Leather Goods since 2000. That's when I launched it originally.
Really?
Yeah, so it's been 23 years. It's crazy. There was a gap in between because at one point I did go back into corporate and things like that, and it wasn't until 2008 where I was laid off due to the recession that I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to take care of myself? So I was like, oh, I can always relaunch my business. Yeah, so since 2008 through now, so 15 years has been like continuous, you know? And so I have had customers for 15 years that come back to me all the time, you know? And so for me, it was never about being the next Calvin Klein. For me, it was about being able to take things that I imagine and turn them into real products that people can carry, love, wear for a lifetime, you know what I mean? And pass it down to the next generation, like create heirlooms, you know? And so the fact that, the thing is, even though it's overwhelming balancing all three things, there's none of it that I can take away from it. I can't take away with my family. I'm not going to take away my 15 years of designing, you know, for my brand. And I'm never going to stop teaching because that's what God put into me to do. You know what I mean? So it is just a balance of putting it all on a calendar and being where I'm supposed to be and making it all happen because this is my life and I love it.
Yeah, I just make it happen. I don't know where I get the energy, but I think it's
probably meditation.
Vitamins. Yeah, just really like being in the moment. I really trying to be in the moment in all things. When I'm with my children, I want to be with my children.
Yes.
When I'm with my students, I want to be with my students.
Yes.
You know?
I love
when
that.
I'm with my neutral states and the projects and my inspirations, I'm there, you know?
Yes.
So I feel like in our culture, in American culture, we're so like either we're stuck in the past or we're like looking toward the future, you know? And like, we only have now. You only have now, right?
Yeah.
So it's like just staying there. It's difficult to do it, right?
Yeah, because you are thinking your phone is telling you that in 20 minutes you have another meeting. You know?
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I see that, but I'm gonna
right
stay
now,
here.
for the next 19 minutes, I'm here.
Exactly. So
and I'm fully here.
It's hard to do, but yeah, it makes me happy. I am a very happy person. I'm just like, I feel so blessed, honestly. Yeah.
I can tell.
blessed and not stressed.
Okay.
Because I get it done.
Yes, get it done. Get it done. You know, I'm thinking, I don't know when your next collection is going to be done, but so I have a runway show that I'm doing.
You do?
I do, and this is the first time my work has been on runway in ages. Because as a accessory designer, it's really just not necessary. It's really about creating the work, photographing the work. You know what I mean? But I am doing Sustainable Fashion Week.
Awesome.
Yeah, and they are going to, because they travel. Last year they were in Chicago. This year, or this season, they're going to be in Jersey. Yeah, they're going to be in Atlantic City. And so I'm working on that collection right now because the show's the end of April. And I just got my notification like 2 days ago. So I was like, okay, gonna dive into work. Gotta dive in. And so, but I would love for us to collaborate on a photo shoot.
Yes.
You know, some neutral states with my accessories, and we do like a collaborative photo shoot. That would be so amazing.
It's already done.
Done.
We're gonna do that.
Done.
I'm so excited.
It just came over me while you were talking. I was like, oh, we need to just do a shoot together. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So yes, please tell the people where they can find Neutral States.
Neutral States, you can find it online, neutralstates.com. We have Instagram, it's Neutral States Clothing. And also, if you're in Philly, you can go to Lobomel flagship. You can go there.
How do you spell Lobomel?
Lobomau. It is Portuguese for Big Bad Wolf.
Big Bad Wolf. Okay, I like that.
And I would like to also do some like knitting workshops, so that's in the works.
Oh.
Yeah, at like local boutiques. So.
I love that. Come and learn from an OG, okay? This has been amazing, DC. Thank you
Terina.
so much.
I'm so excited about collaboration.
Yes! You heard it first, guys.